Thank you very much. You can hold it for me? Because I'm a clown. I'm not so used to with this microphone and all those things. And so I just want to play with you. Sorry. I came here because I heard someone is speaking about race, class, and love. I was searching everywhere for love. You like love? Yes, you like love. I like you. I want to ask you something. What is love?
I have no description for it.
No description.
I can feel it.
Ah, you know,
Love is hope and happiness.
hope and happiness. Wow.
Love is peace.
Peace. Wow. I was also searching everywhere love, but maybe the love fall out. Some. This is love, no? But one thing I wanted to tell you. I'm such a different kind of race, so therefore I'm a little bit shy because I have a red nose. You like me? Even I have a red nose? A very nice song. We can play that song now. It's about one family. You like that? Yes. We are one family? Whatever we are looking, red noses and blue noses and a red next birth, I might be blue. Blue color, yes?
Light on the horizon, starboard bow, feel the spirit rise.
I was going to say that Rolonda has done a lot of things.
Yes, she
Okay,
has,
all
which
right.
has left Steve speechless, apparently.
Yes.
So we're talking about TV reporter, radio host, TV talk show host, actor, stand-up comedian.
That's what I
The
was
list
gonna
goes
say.
on and on and on.
Yeah. Now
Oh,
we
and
can
now
add author to the list. She has written her first book, Destiny Lingers, a romance inspired by characters and events in her life. Remember the red hair?
The red hair.
The Strand.
The Strand.
of red
That's
hair.
right.
Was that real?
An investigative news reporter in New York City. She's chasing down every big story, not paying attention to her own life until she finds that long strand of red hair.
Comes home and on the pillow.
She
right?
wakes up and she notices this red hair on the pillow, on her husband's bed pillow. Only person she knows with bright red hair is her best friend.
Of course.
And that unravels the story of deceit. She has to negotiate a hostage situation, a bunch of other stuff.
She ends up on an island with a hostage situation, the old boyfriend, the police chief.
Well, the police chief she sees, and there's an uncanny familiarity. Come to find out, he's the little boy she was in love with but couldn't be with because of segregation.
Yes.
Time moves on and destiny lingers.
So it's like love the second time around.
Exactly. But it also resonates with so many of the issues we're talking
Pardon me,
about
I'm
today.
getting such a kick out of how you sell your book. Right. You're really good. You're really good at this. Okay.
And it's endorsed by Dr. Maya Angelou.
Oh,
But you know what? I stand by the book because it's not just a great romance. It's also a story that resonates about race relations and
Let me
class
interrupt. We're
relations.
showing, you probably can't read it up on the screen, but
The
it was Maya
endorsement,
Angelou's
yeah.
endorsement
Yes,
there. So it's
yes.
right there.
She
Yes.
said when she finished it, and she handed me the manuscript, she says, "I'm very angry with you."
Why?
And I said, "Why? Did I split a verb? I mean, what happened?" She said, "You finished it. I want this story to continue." So
That's
I'm
good stuff.
hoping that there will be a sequel.
What was the advice she gave you?
She said, "Don't you die with the story still in you." That our stories are so important. At the end of the day, that's all we have are our stories. And if a story can help change the world or change an opinion or move somebody in a way, then tell that story. You know, she was always such a big supporter of civil rights and equality and people loving everybody, the kumbaya. I
Right.
wanted to capture that and show a changing America, a changing time.
Well,
and
you
changing
have
love.
lived very publicly through tremendous changes. I want to go back to when you had your show, which was called, by the way, no ego involved here. What was the name of the show?
Rolonda.
Okay.
And now let's give a warm welcome to our special guest, Rolonda. Hey everybody, how are you? You guys guys look so beautiful. And I mean, just everybody looks so beautiful. You came through the heat, through all the demonstrations, all the housing cleanup you need to do probably at home, and came anyway. So thank you so much for being here. You just look so beautiful, and it means so much to me that each of you are here. Sister Jenna has been wonderful. I met her when she interviewed me for a podcast. It was an immediate love fest. She said, come to DC. I said, I'm on the East Coast. Why not? Caught a train. And I love this lady and her generosity. And what I love so much, any place you can go and take your shoes off. I love that. I'm an old North Carolina girl, honey. I'm a barefoot beauty, honey. But anyway, and what I also love about Sister Jenna is when I talk to her on the phone, she's like, hello, Rolonda. I'm like, hey, Sister Jenna. So look, I'm about to get you. And she's like, hello, Rolonda. And I'm like, boy, I sure need a friend like that. So the more I'm talking, the more I calm down. And I know God sent me here because I need meditation. Saying all that to say, you know, I just tell people it just blows me away that now I'm in the romance business. Because I've been waiting around for Mr. Right for so long, I've become the man I wanted to marry. But, I mean, I do all the things around my house a good man needs to be doing. Like paying the mortgage, walking the dog. I take myself out on dates, buy me a bottle of wine. I take me on exotic vacations. I buy me fancy lingerie. But the book really is, it was just a labor of love for me. You know, it was something that had resonated in me like a little crystal. And I tell you, this idea was in my head for about 20 years. And it sat there and it would not go away. My grandparents back in 1948, along with 9 other black families and some white families involved also, decided that they were going to change the shoreline of North Carolina and start integrating the beaches there. In 1948, it was the first time that blacks could own land or even swim publicly on the oceans, you know. So we had a beach house there on Topsail Island in Ocean City, which was the black section. Hey, oh God, all my college friends are here and stuff. I can't believe this, sorry. I digress. But anyway, so we would go every summer and I would spend my summers there. But as integrated as this island was supposed to be at the time, it's an island that's 26 miles long, 1/4 of a mile wide. It was still extremely segregated. The whites lived on one end, the blacks lived on the other end. And something very strange happened. There was classism that I saw, where wealthy whites did not want poor whites living next to them. And they said, you know, they have to live on the other side of the island, which ironically, they lived in the black neighborhood. The trailer parks were next to the black homes. And you know, it's still the beach. And children play. And they have fun in the marshes and want to go crabbing and all of that stuff. But boy, you didn't do it in public because you could risk dying. I remember going to travel to Topsail Island, and there was a big billboard in the 1960s, and it said, "This is Klan country, like it or leave it." And these were the things I was learning to read as a kid. But that didn't take away when we two kids saw each other and wanted to play. Skip to, many years later, I owned my own house there. And in 1996, there was a horrible hurricane called Hurricane Bertha that plowed through North Carolina just a couple of weeks before Hurricane Fran came in and destroyed it. The hurricane was coming. I was there in my beach house. The news reporter in me kicked in. I called Inside Edition where I used to work, and I said, come on, get a crew. I'm going to report live from my porch. Dumb me, right? By the time the news van got there, it was so dangerous, they wouldn't let them cross the bridge. And it was too dangerous for me to even leave the house. So I remember the news reports going, there are 11 stubborn stragglers left on the island, and I was one of them. So I had to ride out this hurricane and it was the scariest thing in the world, and had to live through this thing. Had to eat at the Red Cross for 3 days. And by the way, the Red Cross serves collard greens, and that's about the only thing that got me through, I want you to know. But anyway, the Red Cross came through for us, but they wouldn't let us leave our houses unless we had police escort. So this handsome police chief would come and get me every day. And he looked like a Ken doll. I mean, he was just the most beautiful. And we would laugh and joke and talk, even in the midst of all this horrible decay and destruction. And I would remember we would drive around and go, wow, there's that, God, we used to get our bait there. He goes, yeah, we used to get our bait there. And everything we said, we knew the same place that we loved so much. Generations had loved it. And I said, why don't we know each other? Boom, that steel door, I can still hear it. Because of segregation. I'm thinking if I'd have known you as a kid, you might have been my husband today. You know? Seriously, though. But it just, or at least dear friends. I would have loved to play with you on the beach. I would have loved, and I started thinking about, what if there were two kids who hid in the marshes to play? And time moved on, but destiny lingered one day. And they got a chance to love. And get a second chance at that first love. And I wanted to tell that story. And I also wanted to tell the story of the beauty of human nature and the ugliness of human nature. At the same time, we're talking about the beauty of Mother Nature and the ugliness of Mother Nature. I said, if I could pull all of that together in one story that could take the difficulty of things like racism and classism, because my two characters, Destiny and Chase, Destiny comes from a very wealthy black family. And she comes from parents who are classist. You know, you can't play with them. They live in a trailer, for God's sakes. That was more important to them than being white. It was like they were poor. There's a line in the book that says, Destiny is talking about Chase and remembering their childhood. And she goes, he couldn't play with me because I was black, but I couldn't play with him because he was poor. Chase's mother is racist. Just racist, the way racists were back in the eastern North Carolina states that I recognize, the ones you're scared of. But these two mothers did so much damage to love, in a way, by just standing still in their own ignorance, if you would. But just like today, as we're seeing with young people dealing with, boy, they didn't have to go through, you know, I'm 58. So I remember, I'm one of the last generations that remembers drinking colored water, as I tell kids, and I don't mean Gatorade and Kool-Aid, okay? And there are parts in the book. There was this one incident I remember. My mother and I got in this huge fight, and I said, and I remember that time when I was in kindergarten, and you didn't let me go on that trip to the park with my. And she said, wait, hold on. She goes, you remember that little note the teacher pinned on your sweater? And I said, yeah, I was probably telling me what to pack and what to put in the lunch. She says, oh, no. Let me tell you what that letter said. It said, we are so sorry that Rolonda can't go on the trip with us to the park tomorrow because Tanglewood Park policies say that they don't allow blacks and Jews. So I had to go to school the next day with everybody talking about that. And I thought it was my parents. And my mother was like, no, these are the things we hid from you. So even the racism that I might have seen, there was so much I was protected from until really getting an idea of what that was like to survive and what generations before me had gone through. Getting back to what I was saying earlier is what I am so encouraged by in this generation is that young people are stepping up and speaking out. Even today, the immigration demonstrations going on, I'm looking at babies, 12 years old, taking stand in front of millions of people saying, this is wrong, from the mouths of our babes. So they're learning a political situation and a constitution to make good change. You know, Destiny and Chase in the book have to make a decision that we're not going to continue generations of classism. I'm not going to be like you, Ma. You know, that was wrong. And you know, that's your generation, but we're not going to be like that. We're changing things. So the story is, and I won't tell you everything, you have to read it, is good. but really it's a story that deals with the tough issues of race and class, but it is such a juicy love story. You can feel the tension of two people who have longed all their lives to feel this and have this one fleeting chance. And what would you do at a second chance at a first love? When I go out and I speak to people and we have great conversations about race and class, and we do it in a calm way, nobody's mad when we're talking about a love story. I was very concerned when I went down to North Carolina and had to, face folks in Topsail, and everybody was like, thank you, because it's not an angry book, but it's poignant. It makes me think. And everybody finds themselves somewhere in the book. This is what's interesting, going back to the 20 years. I think it took me about 10 to really get down. After Auntie Maya, who was a very dear family friend of mine for 35 years, she said I would just look at her writing, and, she'd take that number 2 pencil and write on a yellow pad, and she would travel. And I thought, what a romantic life. And I said, Auntie, how do you become a writer? And she says, well, you'll take a verb, you'll take a noun, an adverb, a conjunctive, and a few pronouns. You mix it together, throw it against the wall, and watch it sing. I said, I want to do that. Oh, boy. But it took a long time, and God has a plan all the time. When the book first came out, Loving was coming out as a movie. A story had never been told on the screen until the same year this book came out. And now look at the cover of the book. Who do those two look like? You two. Well, you know this story. But they look like Meghan and Prince Harry. And I thought, how? That's a God wink. It's a God wink. But I just hope, and it says the laws that kept them apart could never separate their love. And I just hope that, as you're reading it, and I've always seen it as a movie, and I'm continuously working on the screenplay, continuously working on the sequel and the audiobook and all those things that we can manifest in literature today. But it's, when you read it, I promise you, you're gonna miss your subway stop. You're gonna miss your bus stop. I wanted it to just read like a movie. And I hope to take you away. So many people are visiting Topsail Island now on this one book. It's crazy. But it's a good one. It's a good one. I hope you'll enjoy it for sure. Anybody have questions, or you want to do that a little later, or do you want me to read a part of the book, or what you want? A little reading? Okay, let's see. Okay, what part? Not those parts. Let's see, I can read when she first meets Chase, or maybe the conversation about race and class she has with her mom, or maybe that one? Yeah. Okay, that's a little juicy one. All right, it's got a little energy to it, so let's see what happens. Okay, so what has happened at this point is that, you heard what the show story book is about. That's about an investigative news reporter who is tracking down all the big stories in her life and not paying attention to her real life until she finds this long strand of red hair stretched across her husband's bed pillow. The only person. You know something, Sister Jenna? People ask me, Rolonda, is that true? Did you really find a long red hair stretched across your husband's bed pillow? I go, no. I found it in the sink. So that alone, and by the way, this is a creative nonfiction. So there are parts of it. My girlfriend back there saying, now confession may be good for the soul, but it does nothing for the reputation. Okay. But what creative nonfiction does allow you to do is take instances and elaborate on them. Like, instead of just divorcing your husband, you can throw him off a cliff. And anyway, so after she discovers the affair, she goes down to North Carolina to get her head together and spend some time with her family. And she runs into this police chief, and there's this uncanny familiarity, and they're in the grocery store, and the mother has an idea of who this guy is, and she is not having it. Okay? Hold on, let's see where we begin. Oh, that was the part. Okay. I told you that part about the thing with the... Wait, hold on. I was saying, because this includes the little thing on the thing. Okay, hold on. Okay. No rush? Okay, I don't want to tell you the same story again. Okay. All right, so you know part of the story, so we'll just go on. Yes, I remember how excited and proud I was when she pinned that note on me. It was probably one of those reminders of what to pack and what I should wear, when to meet the bus, if you had let me go. Ha! Mother shakes her head and rolls her eyes as if I still have no clue. She stares off somewhere where the memories still haunt her. My darling, let me tell you exactly what that little note read. She leans in. It said, Destiny will not be allowed to attend the class picnic tomorrow because Tanglewood Park's policy does not allow coloreds or Jews. What? I say in utter disbelief. You're kidding me, right? But the look in my mother's eyes says she is not. She is telling the brutal truth, and I see that it hurts her as much as it does me. That's unbelievable, Mother. All this time I know what you thought. You thought your mother was an ogre, when I was only trying to protect you. Your father and I desperately tried to hide those terrible things from you, but it was part of the times, and they were dangerous times, and not much has changed. We were among the first of colored families to integrate the all-white schools and all-white neighborhoods, and a lot of times we had far more education and money than they did, which made it even tougher for us, because they resented that. But we persevered by knowing which side of the road to stay on and which kind of trouble to stay out of. So my being friends with Chase is trouble? Well, in times like that, we just couldn't take a chance, Destiny. It could be a life or death matter. Racism ran rampant down here. It still does to this day, if you ask me. Remember that laws may change, honey, but some attitudes don't. So our family, along with the Mackenzies, Chase's family, decided that the two of you could never see each other again. It was much too much trouble, especially after that ugly day when his mother showed herself on your grandfather's beach like that. Oh, we vowed to do whatever it took to keep you away from that boy and that trash he calls family. Mother, I'm disturbed beyond words. How could you? Well, what did you want us to do, Destiny? Feed you to the wolves? Just give our daughter away to a poor white trailer park boy? Oh, no, no way. Not under our watch. We did what was right. What? Being a racist and a classist? And so what do you want me to do now, Mother? Not be his friend because he grew up a poor boy of racist parents when he has nothing in the world but been nothing in the world but kind and accepting of me? Yes, what his mother did was wrong. It was very wrong. But what you're doing is wrong too. Don't you see that? And sometimes attitudes do change, Mother. What you are doing to poor Chase after all these years is horribly unfair. If anybody's attitude should change, maybe it's yours. Really, Mother, why should Chase be held accountable for that? A past ignorance of his parents does not define who Chase is today. Why should either of us be punished for the ignorance of our parents? Mother shoots me a look like a dart. Now, don't you go disrespecting me too, she hisses. As we pull up to the beach house, she slams on the brakes and comes to a skidding halt. Frustrated, she throws the gear into park and sits there, breathing hard and blinking. Mother, look, I'm not in kindergarten anymore. I'm a grown woman now, and I can make my own decisions, right or wrong, whether you like them or not. I can make my own choices. Mothers or something. And you know something, they're really juicy characters, and people want a sequel, and I really would like to examine more about why the mothers are that way. Why is she such a snob? Maybe because one time she was poor. Why is she such a racist? Maybe she liked a little something. You know, you never know. But there's motivation and reasons and culmination. Life is a culmination of experiences. So what were they? What were they? Sister Jenna, I know you had some more questions for me other than about the red hair. Yes, you have a question?
First, thank you so much. This is we're so fortunate to be here and meet you and listen to you, and can't wait to read the book.
Thank you.
How long? Can you tell us a little bit about how long did it take you to write the book? Your experiences that you went through, perhaps any of those stories that you could share?
Well, I tell you what, in 1996 was when the hurricane hit. And that is when the cop was taking me. And I just could not get, and I was just thinking, like, I wish we had known each other as kids. I mean, this societal whatever that thing, that plague is in our society, kept us from being even friends, for God's sakes. And I just never got over that. And then I started thinking about John and Steve and all the guys I possibly could have married or at least dated, or I would have expanded my horizons, you know. And then I started thinking about other little things. And then, you know, and then it wouldn't go away. And then when I went to the beach, I would take a book to write while my friends would take a book to read. And while they're reading on the beach, I would hear characters in my head or describe the beach scene and imagine how they met. And I had the idea that I wanted a hurricane and the cop to come save her. And she would find out that was the little boy she was in love with. But how do you put that together? And what would be the precursor that would drive her down to, and then I was like, go with what you know. And so I wanted the excitement, so it's just not I'm not a gushy kind of girl, but I do love this romance story. So I wanted to add a little grit to it too. So you got a good hostage situation, which really did happen. I did actually help negotiate a hostage situation when I was an investigative news reporter in New York City. If it had ended the way it ends in this book, I would have 10 Emmys by now. There's the creative nonfiction part. But the guys are really getting into it too. The guys are loving the book because it's about an investigative news reporter and a cop. So you got some good opportunities there too. But after a while, you know, we would sit on the beach and then we'd go back to the beach house and have some oysters. And my girls have been here. And you know, some of my friends, I would read some of my stuff and then they'd be like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Then I said, you know, this is kind of getting somewhere. And I would enjoy it when I'd put it down for a year or something and go read it. I was like, this is good. But those characters kept screaming at me. And then I took workshops. I took a writing workshop on memoirs. I took a writing workshop on creative nonfiction. I took nonfiction writing. I said, I'm going to get this book out. I have no idea how to write a book, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right. It's very rare that journalists write novelists and very rare that novelists write screenplays. And I said, I want to be the Beyonce of literature and do all three of them. So that's what I want to do. Triple threat. But you know, but it took time. But you know what? Like Auntie Maya said, and if you don't hear me say anything else today, because I know everybody has a book in them, don't you let that story die inside of you. The pain, it was painful to write this book. There were times I was writing chapters and crying my heart out and really crying for the little girl in me that didn't get a chance to live so openly and freely as the kids today. You know, and to think that simple love, walking down the street, holding somebody's hand, I could be swinging from a tree because of that. That's horrible to me. And the fact that I see these things coming back is even more terrifying. So I love the idea that we have a love story, but still allows us to talk openly and calmly about race and class, which are things that are disrupting and destructing our country today. Yeah, but it took, I think, from start to finish, maybe about 20 years. But when Auntie Maya said, don't you die with that story still in you, I took it as a job. In fact, I took time off and really concentrated on it. And I did what it took. I went to workshops. I worked with writers, and every week, you know, we'd present our work to each other. Anything to encourage us to get that story out. Because your pain is somebody else's healing salve. You know, and it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. But once it's over and it's out, I tell you, there is nothing better than when that box comes with your book in it. And today, because of independent publishing, you don't have to wait. I mean, I tried Random House and all the rest of them. I got some of the most glowing rejections you've ever heard. But at that time, they were into 50 Shades of Grey and all these other things. Nobody was into a love race story. So I did it on my own, and look, it came out just at the time when that's what we're talking about. God is good. God is good. Did you want to join me here? I know you have some other juicy questions you wanted to ask.
I don't know if they're juicy. Isn't she wonderful?
Okay, I gotta calm down.
No, just have to keep being yourself. That's why so many people love you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so pleased to have you here today, for you to be able to express what this book meant to you. and for us to do a book signing. I hope we'll have enough books for everyone, but you have to buy one before you go, because she's not taking them back in the box.
And they make great gifts.
And they make great gifts. I have the story to tell you. When I was walking in the back, our two friends came in the room, and they were saying, this book is about us. And I've known them for such a long time, and nothing is more precious than when you have a living story of an interracial marriage that's working. I know Hazel in the back also, and John, they are in an interracial relationship, and I guess after a while it doesn't even matter. Because actually I think we're bonding more to each other's virtues and qualities of character than skin or gender. Would you agree?
I agree. You know, it's interesting because, kids under 26, over 65% of them are in interracial relationships. You know, they just don't even think about it. And then I have many people who say, I'm gay, and this is our story. So there were laws that had to change that way as well. So it's been an interesting. Oh, can you hear me better now? Okay, sorry about that. But I was just saying that love deferred is just can be a tremendous kind of love, as we see. But it's something that has resonated, I think, with a lot of people who, for whatever reason, had to defer their love.
And when you look at the word love, what's your definition of it for you?
Oh, I just say God. Yeah, because God is everything to me. That's my faith, that's my strength, that's my security, that's my peace, that's everything. That I can depend on.
What does it feel like?
Safe.
Wow, I love that. And I think that's what we need to feel. I think many of us are struggling with feeling safe enough to express. I think we're in a very charged environment, and there's a lot of energy that perhaps many of us really not supporting. Anything that puts down another group of people, a race, a community, a religion, to somehow convince another part of the community that you're superior, you're better than I am, definitely, it's, you're going to have to find a lot of inner courage to say, I don't agree with this isn't right. Today we're having the families, the families march on the mall, and I have chosen to somehow not look at those stories all the time. Because my common sense and my heart says, I can't imagine any leader at this particular time. Okay, so it happened 60 years ago, 70 years ago, somewhere in Germany, but I can't imagine these times where we're supposed to be civilized, that people are playing these cards.
Caging children.
Caging children for the sake of power, to impose fear. What would you say would be our ability? What can we do as a collective to somehow diffuse this reality that we're witnessing?
That we will not be silent. I think that's it. It's the old thing. You see something, you say something, and silence says it's okay. I know that going back to Dr. Maya Angelou, who was such a mentor to me, I asked her during the times of Trayvon Martin and all, remember Zimmerman and all those horrible stories were coming out, and I said, please tell me. I interviewed her, by the way, on my podcast, rolondaondemand.com. But I did ask her, I said, how do we process this? Right. What are we supposed to do? And she said, you stand up, you stand for something. You stand up and you lift your voice and you don't shut it up until something is done. And I think that's what I was resonating with today, the children who had written letters to children in bondage. It was just so riveting and just ripped my heart out, the same way those children were ripped out of their parents' arms. And I thought, look at what this is doing on the other side, that, as I always say, crap makes gardens grow. And if that's the case, we are about to be a rainforest in America. But all of this has got to lead to something positive, y'all. If nothing else, our young leadership, starting at 11 years old, is lifting their voice in front of millions of people worldwide to say no. And that's important, to see our children making a change.
Yeah, that's great. Crap makes gardens grow.
I know this is probably not the place to say that.
No, I love that. No, you can say crap as long as it wasn't the other word.
Come on, thank you.
We're okay. So the fact that there's a lot of crap and the garden is about to grow, how do we prepare ourselves for the growth? Because there is an energy right now of a lot of exhaustion. A lot of people are tired of trying to fight this uphill battle. That there are powers that be that seem so united, and they're so together on their branding and their messages to keep imposing fear. So here we are, like individually trying to do our own pocketing of ideas or thoughts, and sometimes we don't feel as much as a collective energy. How do we prepare ourselves for the growth? Because I think exhaustion and tiredness is a very huge topic right now, consistently trying to fight for something that is you shouldn't be fighting for.
I think weariness and being tired is one thing. Apathy is a whole different thing. I just think we can. It's okay to be tired. Every person who helped make a major change in the world, I'm sure, was very tired, for goodness sakes, but they didn't give up. And I think that even if you just start with something as simple as, hello, good morning, how are you, to somebody in the elevator. Oh, can I help you with your groceries today? Put that energy out there. I find that so many people are afraid of each other. I have noticed a major shift in the way people approach each other, the way they look at each other. I know people are looking at me as a black woman now. I feel, or a woman during the Me Too movement. I know that what is happening in this atmosphere is affecting the way you see me. But if you're watching me, I'm watching you watching me. So there's my opportunity to do something good, whatever that is. If it's, I don't know, I was in Los Angeles driving down a major intersection, La Brea and one of them, and this man was crossing the street, pushing his own wheelchair, like he was trying to get it, and then he couldn't do it, so he turned around, and on every one of these, there were cars. And I was at the stop sign and I said, this is wrong. I got out of my car, I stopped traffic in the middle of the street. I don't know what hit me, but it was wrong for all these people in their Mercedes and their fancy SUVs watching this battered little broken man try to cross that street. I said, this is wrong. I got out of my car, I ran over and I said, let me help you. And I pushed him across the street and got him to safety. Now, he was probably hungry. My car's still over there. But I had to pray on it. And I say, somebody pick up where I left off.
Love that.
We've got to help each other. And trust, I'm not saying it for applause. I'm just saying it because I know that's something everybody in here would do. And and sometimes you're sitting there like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Well, maybe it's too busy. I might get hit by a car. Stop it. Do it right now. That's what we need to do. Take action immediately.
Lovely. So glad nobody jumped in your car and took it.
Well, listen, it would have been for the right reason. God would have gotten it back.
Because
and it might be a Mercedes.
Well, what happens is that sometimes we find ourselves participating in doing good, and then something happens. Crap happens. And then you get disheartened in trying to continue to do good because you feel you're either taken advantage of, they didn't hear you, they didn't appreciate you. You get a little bit sometimes disappointed. So what would you tell someone who's feeling a little bit disappointed because they've done a lot of good but felt that they've been taken advantage of?
Well, I think, sometimes, what is that old saying that you keep digging and digging and digging and then you give up and you're like this far from hitting the well? You just don't give up. You have to believe that, I always believe God believes in matching grants. You do your work, he'll meet you halfway. But he believes in matching grants. So you got to keep going because maybe that 50% that you're meeting him is a really big 50. So you got to work a little harder. There's, goodness knows, just in changing careers and, love life, and you just get tired, but it doesn't mean you give up. You keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. My girlfriend's back there like, who just got a new boyfriend. And she's keeping hope alive for me. I'm still looking. I know, I'm keeping hope alive.
Bless you. So one of the things I'd like to maybe direct our conversation to is about this, relationships.
Oh, Lord. This is going to be a short one.
One of the most challenging relationships that I think every one of us have had to endure is to be comfortable with ourselves. To what extent have you felt comfortable enough with you now to be the real you, or is it still a work in progress?
It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress because I have to surrender. You know, I'm very, like a lot of us women, we're very clear about what we want. We're very clear about what, you know, and at this time, you're very, you know, you just, you know, you're set in your ways, I guess, or whatever it is. But I think till the day I die, I'll still be working on myself. Sure. You know, to be the best when the goods get returned, right? But I just, you know, I believe in what the Bible says, that a man finds a woman. And I'm just gonna wait. I just make sure I'm the best when he finds me. And if you're out there anywhere, just sorry, this isn't our time. You know why they call it that? Because our time's almost up. It's a dating site for frisky folks over 50. Sister Jenna, just in case you want to know.
So tell me, what's one of your greatest life lessons so far that you're so clear you can pass this on to many generations to come?
Well, I just am a firm believer that your faith is everything. That there's so little that you can count on, and that change is a constant. Goodness knows I've known it from changing careers and just changing cities, and change is inevitable, even changing ages. You know, that's inevitable. But I think the faith and understanding that, you know, you're God's greatest toy box. He filled you up with all the toys he wanted to give you and the batteries to come with it. So when you are in a change in life and you don't know what to do, go back to the source. Go within yourself and find those gifts. When the news career wasn't working, because they were into entertainment news now, I went into talk shows. When talk shows weren't working, I went into acting. I was finding all those gifts. What is that one common thread? Looks like I'm schizophrenic, but the one common thread is storytelling. I'm a storyteller, and I believe that I'm put here on this earth to tell stories that move people and motivate them to do good. That is my lifeline to God. And so that's what I depend on. And I know I have to have faith that he put me here for a reason, and he's going to figure it out for me and give me the path.
Have you had any regrets?
Any regrets? No, because I've learned from everything that would have been a regret. Do I have any regrets? Do I ever call you with any regrets? No, we've known each other since we were 17. If I had a regret, she'd remind me of it. No, I don't know. Any regrets? No. I mean, there were people who said, do you regret ending your talk show? And I say no, because I wasn't going to do the Jerry Springer thing. I mean, I regret not being able to print money like Jerry, trust. But you know, I think there's certain things that also go with your integrity in life. And much of life is knowing what to say no to. Because you wouldn't have the respect for me or my book if I had done some of the things that the TV business was asking me to do, and I wouldn't do that. So
you have a lot of core values, which is it's a rarity today. We appreciate that. Are there any questions that anyone in the audience would like to ask Rolonda? Please come up. We need a mic.
Here, you want? Oh,
we need a mic. Oh, you have cards, and okay, there are cards.
You want me to pass?
No, that they have cards. There were cards that were passed around, I was told?
Yes. Oh.
Okay.
I could just hand you this mic.
So do you sing?
I can belt.
Can you belt one right now?
No, that wouldn't be appropriate for any. No, you know what? When I go to karaoke, I can do.
You belt.
I can do Fever and Big Spender. Okay.
I bet you're good at that. Kanu, you had a question?
Yeah. What's your biggest fear around race and class?
Any questions anyone has? Write it on their card.
I think my biggest fear is that that people will be manipulated into hating. You know, that it's gotten beyond politics now. You know, I have some very dear friends who voted for Trump and are Republicans, but they are not with this program. You know, and I want people to be able to make a decision against hatred. Now, I don't care if you're a Republican, that's your business. That's your right. That's what America's about. But all this hate mongering and locking up kids and stuff, this is threatening the soul of our nation. And we help build this nation with our blood, sweat, tears, and soul. I don't care what background you come from. And this is just so, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. And I think that our consciousness has to stand up to be better human beings, I think. Not just Americans.
Our conscience, yes. So here's a question for you, Rolonda.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Was meditation a part of your process with writing the book? Leaving relationships, welcoming a relationship, and was meditation incorporated in your process? So was meditation a part of the process in writing, leaving relationship, welcoming relationships? Have you been using meditation a lot for your own life?
Not really. You know, that's what I was going to talk with you about. I need more meditation.
Don't worry, I'm here for you.
No, I got you. You know, but I will tell you this. I was very ritualistic. Maybe that's meditation. But I would light a candle. There are times when I'm most creative at 4 in the morning for some reason. So
That's
a
a good
lot
time.
of 4 o'clock in the morning was great writing. I was very open to listening to what the creator wanted me to do. So I would hear conversations in my head, and you know that sound. I did one talk, and the lady came to me. She said, I was with you till you started talking about them characters talking to you." But it's true. There's this one scene when they go to Boston, when the girls go to Boston. You remember this? Ooh, this character, Kat, who you're going to love in this book, Kat took me there. Because when what happens is Destiny reveals the affair, and all her best friends are together, and they're crying and all this stuff, and finally it's all over. I'm crying, the characters are crying, I'm typing, and then it was over, and then one of the characters goes, "Well, what are we going to do now?" And I went, "I don't know." And I'd gotten myself in a corner, and all of a sudden Kat jumped up in my head. She goes, "Get dressed, girls. We're going to Boston." You know, get dressed to kill, girls. We're going to Boston. I think that was one. I've never been to Boston. And I follow this character through everything and just describe the scene like I'm being carried by my hand. I was not there. I did not do that. Kat took me there, and I just took a picture of it. When you see that, it is one of the most pivotal scenes in the book. And I swear I just heard her voice in my head, and I just followed it. When you start writing and you give characters blood, sweat, tears, a little tick, something they always say, they start coming to life. They will not leave you alone. And you writers in here, I think you know what that's like. But a good story will not leave you alone.
Well, isn't that like our lives? We're all getting signals with our thoughts as to what we need to do, where we need to go, what we need to be thinking. And I think we get distracted because of just the basic common way of living, you know, our average lifestyle. What's your interpretation of meditation? Because how ironic, we get up every morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock to meditate.
Really?
Girl.
Do you do it by Skype?
And what happened? We actually do. There is some that they do it by Skype or conference. And what we do between 4 o'clock and 4:45 is to listen. And what we do is we listen to see what the story is that's emerging. So there are 2 stories that emerge. One is a story of truth, which is connected to peace, purity, wisdom, love, and joy. And whatever the story is that is revealing these experiences, and that's the story I want to feed, and I will definitely make choices to move towards that direction for the day. It's signaling me at 4. Because at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, the soul's vibrational wavelength is the stillest it could be. So when you're still, whatever really needs to surface to reveal to you who you need to be and what you need to do, surface. So when something is disturbing your spirit that early in the morning, that's coming from your algae. It's an acronym. It's an acronym I use all the time. A for anger, L for lust, G for greed, A for attachment, and E for ego. So whenever these thoughts are disturbing my time with God or my time with myself, then it's signaling to me, this is the core, this is the cause of your obstacles, holding yourself back, not liking yourself, finding challenges and difficulties. Remove them. So this is the benefit of meditation. Once you can identify what's blocking my progress and my freedom, it's algae. Then I replace algae with the love, the peace, the purity, the truth, so that I can still move forward with my story, because my story must be told.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so, you just totally flipped my whole world right there.
Because a lot of people think that meditation is an absence of thinking, and we don't believe that. That's very
why I couldn't
stressful.
do it.
It's very hard.
Or I thought it was just being quiet, which is tough for me too. I was like, I don't think that meditation stuff is for me.
No. And I think one of the reasons why in the West we tend to sway away from meditation is that there's this misunderstanding that we're supposed to stop thinking.
Absolutely.
And it's not that. We're supposed to identify the right kind of thinking that connects to our ultimate goals and visions.
So basically what you said is stop the stinking thinking.
There you go.
And just replace it.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. So now with the Me Too movement, can women make America great again? Who did that?
Women have already made this nation great. Listen, there are two types of people. Women and people who come from women.
What's your advice? What's your advice in the following situation? How can I approach my mother and have her accept my daughter's beautiful relationship with her best friend, who is from Barbados? My daughter is 13 and Caucasian.
How can you what? What was the...
How can I approach my mother and have her accept my daughter's beautiful relationship with her best friend, who is from Barbados, and her daughter is 13 and is a Caucasian?
Wow. You know what's interesting? I think it reminded me, I went to my 40th high school reunion, and I was only black in this all-female girls' college preparatory school founded in 1772. And we're still all the best of friends today. And, you know, I was hugging my girlfriend Elizabeth, and we were talking about my book, and we were talking about race, and, you know, how interesting it was, and all that. And she said, I have to tell you something. And I said, what? She said, do you remember when we graduated? And I said, yeah. And she said, remember how we all hugged each other? We were hugging each other. She said, my grandmother would not speak to me for hugging you. She said, if you ever touch that girl again, I will disown you. And I said, are you kidding me? Because we were like this. And you know, it was something that, I know that's not who Elizabeth is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, whatever her mother did made my friend Elizabeth. So I don't even... You know, and I talked to Elizabeth, and she was like, you know, that's just who she was in her generation. And I got the impression that they just let grandma be grandma, and it wasn't that much a deal. But the bottom line was that the daughter of the grandmother said, my daughter will not be this way, and made a decision. You just don't bring it around grandma, but it doesn't mean that you stop the progress of your child's love.
It's funny, my dad's Indian, and my mother's African Caribbean. And my grandmother on my father's side was so prejudiced towards Sister Gita. She gave her such a hard time because she was African. And I remembered once when because I would stay with my dad a few times, and then I would go back home and stay with Sister Gita. And one day my grandmother said something about someone in an African body and called them the N-word, you know? And I kind of pulled back, and I looked at my grandmother, and I said to her, but Grandma, my mother is that. She goes, no, you're more Indian than that. And I said, no, Grandma, I'm half and half. And I love my mother and I love Dad. I don't think that's what you should say. She never said it again in front of me.
Right. Yeah, I think that change is a coming, and also, as bad as it is, I think the pendulum swings both ways, and I think that people are learning a better sensibility of how to deal with these difficult issues. You know, I think there was a time when we would talk race and class, and we'd just shut down and nobody say anything. Don't upset the boat. But it's so important that we have conversations about it and discussions.
Yeah, I'd like to ask my question. First of all, it was admitted on tape that this was based on us, so when we get the royalty checks?
I tell you what, I'm going to interview you on Rolonda
John.
Secondly, I lead an Afrocentric life, and this is my beautiful wife, just the tip of the iceberg. And yet recently, I had the black card played on me. And I'm wondering, I'm not one to sit still, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about it.
What was the black card?
Well, somebody made a judgment about the way I think based upon my color that was black. And accused me of being racist, basically. And it was very hurtful and very wrong. And so I'm just bubbling up with things to try to do about that, because I don't sit still for things like that.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the situation was or what.
It would take a while to explain.
Yeah, but the bottom line is not true.
Yeah.
You know, what other people think about me is none of my business.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
I just can't get bogged down with it because you either like me or you don't. That's just the way I am, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't get bogged down with it. That's just a tough way to say it, but I'm sure it hurts your feelings.
Yeah.
But you know that's not true.
Yeah.
But at least it gives you an insight on the way some people think. And
Yeah.
you know something, I don't think the majority of people are as crazy as the ones we're seeing.
Yeah.
I think most people in this country are beautiful people, decent people who help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the communities all across this nation. We have wonderful, but it's just those few that are just
They're getting all the media coverage.
right and getting the media. Well, you know, the media is based on making y'all scared so they can make money.
Get some ratings.
If everything was and let's face it, we don't go to the movie and pay all that money to see a bunch of people happy. It's something that we like, because if we weren't,
That's why we don't charge for our programs here.
that's right. Right, exactly.
John, can I say something? I think that whenever I'm in a position where I feel that someone has spoken to me without virtues, is what I call it. It could be a black person pulling some card, it could be a Chinese person, it could be a Republican, it could be a Democrat. Try not to get distracted by the labels or the titles, because you'll never get to the root of where the problem really is. It was just unfortunate that the person lacked their virtues at the time they were with you, one. The second aspect is, was I in my power of virtues, two. So both people had an opportunity to work on themselves to see how we could move this very low vibration forward. Because you shouldn't have to walk around feeling hurt or bruised and ready to, go hurt somebody, So this is where, I don't mean you would physically hurt someone. And this is where I think that the times that we're in, they're giving us an opportunity to check ourselves as well as to go beyond the skin. It's an age to go beyond language, race, gender. It's no more that age. And I think that's where we're lacking the opportunity of checking and changing ourselves to become that God image that we were born in. So I just wanted to add to that story.
It's also, absolutely. I like that. And also, everything is so based on fear today. It's that you almost want to turn to people and say, "What are you afraid of?" Anything that would make you act that way or say something to me that way. What are you afraid of? And you might learn something deeper than just they may want your attention.
This is an interesting question. What do you think about this audience that's in front of you?
Oh my God, I just love you. If I can do one big group hug. In fact, let's do one big selfie before I leave.
Yeah, on the way back.
The energy is so wonderful and so receiving, and there's nothing, you can't even put into words what it means to have the type of support that you're given. When you crack your chest open and show your soul, and people come and listen to your story. Most of us just listen to me. Do you see me? Do you hear my story? And that's accomplishing such a beautiful thing. And I thank you so much. I really thank you.
We thank you too. What did you feel when you first stepped into the museum?
I was like, alrighty now. No, they were so peaceful. I didn't know what to do. She said you could take off your shoes and then put on the booties. I said, where you want me to put my shoes? Under the table? She was like, no, we have a room. No, but I knew it was a sense of peace, and I had gotten to know you. And my thing was just keep your voice down and behave. Just get through this. Be really calm.
hope you don't feel that way. You know,
See how that worked out, right?
You know what I've learned is that the more authentic and honest you are with yourself, you're actually offering people permission to be themselves too. So you can speak as loud as you want, and then eventually you might get to a point, you know what, Rolonda, let me save some energy for tomorrow. Because, you know, my thing is, I always think about my tomorrows, even though I'm present. And because I know we're souls, and the soul is an energy, energy always needs to be restored. So I tend to manage how much energy I exude per day. Because sometimes, some days will come and it'll ask more energy from you than you can handle. So I should have a stock. Yeah, I should have a stock. So the connection to the Supreme, the connection to the Divine, when I'm able to have this internal link to a source, the quality of God, the quality, please remember this, everyone. God's not Jewish, He's not Hindu, He's not black, He's not white, He's not in Jerusalem, He's not in Mecca, He's not in India. God is a quality that we can now access and fill up inside. But one of the most intriguing virtues I have identified for me that enables me to have my connection to God is to be very sincere in my connection. Like I can't connect to God because I want a Tesla, and everybody know I want a Tesla. I don't know when I'm going to get my Tesla, Lord. And I don't mean the cheap Tesla either.
What color would you want?
I send it out there. I send out my Tesla request, right? So long story short, I don't go to him for that, even though that would be good. But the most important reason that we can visit the connection to God is to get rid of that algae. And because that algae is so recorded in our nature, in our personality, there's no doctor that can cut us open to get it out. There is no music I can hear that will get it out. Nothing except my sincerity to say, I wasn't made this way. There's something much more to me than me getting angry all the time, me walking around in fear all the time, me feeling alone because I haven't found the right partner, me thinking I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy, or me even having regrets. So I believe that we're at such a profound age where the youngings, which is everyone in the room, the youngings are in a particular confluence. We're all in this confluence right now, where we're able to identify that there is a lower vibrational energy which is no longer capable of serving us. We're kings. And kings don't work with low energy. We're queens. We don't use low energy to reign our kingdoms. So it's clear that at the confluence age, we're now being pushed, whether it's by a government, whether it's by situations and circumstances, that energy is pushing us away from that algae similarity or familiarity rather, and is taking us to a higher dimension of existing, which is of that God vibe. And so I believe that when we get into the God vibe, we can cope with things. Our destiny can be pure. Our destiny can have all the good that it needs. As we come to a close, because I know we could sit here all day, and don't you feel like you're in your living room just chit-chatting?
I love the intimacy.
Right? If anyone really has to rush out in the 98-degree temperature in traffic, please raise your hand, and we can stop right now. We can stop right now, but I know that you want a book signed. What we'll do, in order to respect the timing that was on the invitation, and thanks again for coming out. Thank you. No, I'll do one with us. What happens is that we stand up and we take it. So you all get to be lazy. We do the homework. Antonia, you had a message? It's up to 3:30. Oh, well, it's good. We have a half more hour. Okay, great. You had a question, Inakshi?
Yes, I do. So I really agree with your comment that people are afraid of something. Everybody is afraid of something, and it's mostly the environment around, and we need to protest. So my question to you is, how do you balance when you have your core values and you have to strike a compromise because you have to exist in the world? What I think of Brahma Kumaris here is, it's a very beautiful world, but frankly, that's not the world outside. So how do you strike a balance between your core values and what is wrongly expected of you in the outer world?
It's an interesting question.
You know, my first thought is to just say no.
Yeah.
I just don't do that. I won't do it.
Yeah, it's not different.
There's, you know, I remember when we were doing my talk show, and there was an era where people were throwing chairs, and you know, there was all too many babies, mamas, and all of this stuff. And they were trying to get me to do that kind of stuff. Coming from Columbia and being in the news business, it was very tough for me to make that transition. So we would do a show like, there are too many babies calling my man daddy. And it was like, that was the compromise, because I knew that would get my talk show audience in. I know they would think women would be screaming at each other. And so for the first few minutes of the show, we'd get him going and riled up. But what I was really trying to talk about was, Clinton had just passed a deadbeat dad bill, that women had the power to demand that these men take care of their children. And let's look at the psychological effects of a kid who's sitting by the window waiting for daddy to show up and he never comes. What are we doing to our children? So that would, to say that's our show today, nobody's going to watch that. So I had to make a compromise to survive to a certain point. And then when they want the whole show to be, forget all that other stuff, I can't do that. So that's probably a kind of far-fetched example, but I can only think that there are just certain things that you won't do, to a certain point. Compromise is all part of everything in life, but...
Can I add?
Absolutely.
I don't believe that anyone in negativity or darkness can pull us into their dimension unless we want to. And please don't underestimate the power of a good person when they're out there in a very dark world. They can impact many changes. It just might not be as impactful or fast. But remember, you are protected by your own light, not because of the dark that you carry. And so despite whatever anyone tries to push you in, you can't be a goody two-shoe, you can't do it this way, you just tell them it's okay, you do your thing, I must do mine. Because, we get to this tail end of the journey, and if God can't smile at me when I'm going
That's
up
right.
because I've been naughty, then what was it worth? You understand? So we got to kind of sometimes think about our final moments of how I want to live with grace and dignity and respect. Yeah? All right.
What's that they say? Nobody can drive you crazy unless you give them the keys.
There you go. There you go. We have one more question in the back.
I believe you stand for question I wrote, but I was wondering of the aspect of repression by advertisement and television and movies, the trend of black girls.
So we'll find your question, right?
Is it about depression? Oppression. Which will give you depression.
I got your question. Is it David? What's your name again? Dave. Jay. Thank you for being here today, Jay. It's lovely to have you. There's a great deal of social oppression against many groups of people through media and advertising. How would you promote equality despite all of this?
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that. I don't know. I keep going back and forth in being in the television business and just being somebody who disseminates information in the media. I'm part of that. And I also am part of a lot of things I don't like seeing in the media. I'm very disappointed that I'm not going to say we, but there's so many of the so-called reporters out there who are not journalists. They were probably pulled off an entertainment desk and made to turn into look like a reporter person, but they don't have the integrity and the commitment and the creed that we take as journalists, so the people shall know. They just want to be first with the big ratings rather than being correct a lot of times. And I think that sends us in a tailspin. And it also drives people to think certain thoughts about certain people or because we don't have all the information. I mean, let's face it, hatred and prejudice is ignorance.
I think that we can't wait for media to make changes, but I think just how you've been here today, you don't care about race or situation or who you're with or where you're with. I think for us to break away from the division is to just be inclusive and just to meet people who are honorable, talk to people who are honest, have a lot of integrity. When I had Rolonda on my show a few weeks ago, she shared something with me that touched me a lot because she says, I'm really breaking away from people right now who just aren't supporting my values or my higher self anymore. And I'd love for her to talk about why she decided to do that and how does she feel now breaking away from folks that are just not, supporting her higher self.
I don't know, maybe it's age and maturity or you just get just enough already. You just get to a point where you're either with me or against me. That, there's some people I let go because they're just so negative. Every single thing is an issue. Everything. Oh my God. They never, she might have to go in a special place too. No, seriously, because people just bring you down. They just bring, and it's enough already. Just, if you aren't going to change, I can change the situation.
Yes.
There's some people you keep on short-term visitation rights. You just don't do it. It's, I don't care who it is. It's you just can't do it. Or there are people who are always gossiping, or there are people who have a different lifestyle than yours that you just can't deal with. But it comes a time when that stuff starts splashing off on you, and you can either become that or be more becoming by getting away from it.
And how are you feeling now, reducing all that energy?
I feel great. I feel great. I just put my foot down and cut it out.
And I would like to concur that. I highly recommend that this is a time that we can't be around a lot of high maintenance, lower energy. It's not our worth, it's not our value, especially if you feel called to do more in society. Be very mindful of the company that you keep, especially now.
A lot of people got trickery out there. They're always borrowing something from you and never doing, the trickery.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a moment to thank Rolonda with a big clap and a big smile. A lot of love. When we had Louis Gossett, he wanted to do a selfie too. So what we did, we just stood up and turned around so everyone could be in the picture. You want to do that?